life is like a continuous cycle. You feel me? Right? And this right here is part of the cycle. But like when you look at the eight, not even the eight, but the infinity, right? When you look at it, you understand is the symbol of infinity just shows that there's no end, there's no beginning. It just keeps on going, just keeps on going, just keeps on going. But here's the thing about the infinity, right? Human thought of infinity is just, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not correct, but it is the human thought of infinity. It is, infinity was never made by humans. And we can't really understand it because that's not what we do. We're not here to understand the infinity. If we were here to understand the infinity, then we wouldn't be here. As this experience is a limited place, right? But this, I'm saying this experience, me walking around, is a limited experience. Because yes, I can go upstairs, yes, whatever, but I can go downstairs, whatever, boom, 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 but I am not going to. So right now it is limited to me walking back and forth. But it is also unlimited, as me walking back and forth could, not even could, but it will create, you know, different realities, to where I record a different video, or to where I say something different, say a different word, and that makes somebody comment or somebody like, and then that leads to certain things, right? But in this reality, the main problem is that it's a shared reality, but now for some reason we don't want to share it, right? It's a shared reality. We don't want to share the same perspectives as everybody else, but we just do. We don't want to, but we do. And that is why the problem is certainty. When you think you're 100% correct, but your body was curated, your avatar is literally made to restrict you. Like, it's literally made to make you not be able to do as much, so you can do the experiencing. If you could do as much as essentially what you, as let's say a god, if you could do that much, right, as infinite energy, then what would you be experiencing? You can't. I mean, it's not that you can't, but you're experiencing a lot at the same time. So think about it from the human mind, right? At least how I understand it is that it's not that you don't understand it, but you just know. So the way that you just know certain things in your brain, and you're like, well, I know that. It's like you just know. And that's all it is. It's not fun. It's probably not fun. I mean, or else we wouldn't be here speaking on this. I mean, it's not that it's not fun, but it doesn't, it's not worth anything, probably. Like, I don't know. That's the confusing part. Because no matter what, across all the universes, across all the dimensions and everything, right? I'm in this dimension. I'm in this universe. I'm in this body, right? No matter if I swap out and create an alternate universe, I'm still in this body, still in this shared reality with people, with my mother. My mother is still my mother, you know. My mother's still going to react the way that she reacts to certain things. My father's going to react the way that he reacts to certain things. My brother's going to react the same way he reacts. Like, it's just, you mean, but there's many things, there's many different ways to view this reality, you feel me? And there's also many different ways to touch the other realities, right? But when you come back, you gotta accept that unless you die, this is the reality that you're stuck in right now. You feel me? And you're not stuck in it because you can go create a new reality by just standing up and walking away. Literally. You can go create a new reality by standing up, walking away. The whole point is you just don't understand this. You don't understand that you create this reality when you get up and walk away. Because you understand reality as a constant, regular thing. Like, yes, it's ever changing. You understand that part of the ever changing, but you don't understand how much it is ever changing. Like, it's not about the reality of it. It's about, it's really about the shared reality. Now, well, then again, I guess perspective is the lower version of reality, right? So when I say reality, I guess it's already inherently referring to the shared reality. And that's why we have the word perspective, to then say how he sees the reality. But right now, not right now, but it's very broken, right? It's very broken. This shared reality is very broken. And that's because everybody's certain. Everybody's certain that they're correct. Everybody's certain. So then they can't take knowledge from others, and then, not everybody's certain, but that's obviously implied as nothing's 100%. But everybody, they feel a different way. They feel a different way, have a different perspective on shit, and they don't want to share perspective. They don't want to share reality, but you have no choice but to share the reality. Unless you're going to go be alone forever, but you're a human. You don't want to be alone forever. But that is the thing. That is why the certainty becomes a problem, because you're a human. There are things that not force you, but there are things that influence you very, very well to go do certain things, right? When you think about the whole point of you thinking about the death or the existentialism or all of that, whatever. The whole point of the existential and all that is that humans long for life, right? Why do humans long for life, right? Not even in the sense of they long for life for themselves, but they just long for life and enjoyment, right? The human body wants to feel comfortable, happy, or not even happy, to be honest, comfortable, safe. You feel me? The human body wants to be safe. And whatever makes it feel safe, it will try to grab that. It will try to get that. So it's not even, the human body is based on reality at the start. At the very start. You feel me? Not the very start, but when niggas were working together and all this technology and all this other stuff did not exist. You feel me? To where you couldn't see these other people's reality and then be like, no, that's incorrect. Where you had this reality and this is your reality. And then though they had their reality, that's their reality. You feel me? But it's all shared as we all are still on the globe. And we all are still on, we're all still affected by the sun. We're affected by the moon. We're affected by the cold, the hot. We're all affected by that, right? And that's the shared reality. That's not necessarily 100% the shared reality, but that's just part of it. But when you can step outside of these things, right? You have to realize, are you really stepping outside of these things? Are you stepping outside of your reality? Are you stepping outside of your perspective? Because the certainty is what makes you not want to step outside of your perspective. And then here's also the thing wrong with this world. Echo chambers, right? So, but as I just said, that's their shared reality and that's their shared reality. Those are two different shared realities, but they, in reality, share the same reality. So, this tribe has a different reality, that tribe has a different reality, but they share the same home of Earth, right? So, in turn, they share the same reality of cold, hot, whatever. But also, that's not 100% true, as that's the things that affect the reality. You feel me? You feeling like you're in this reality and you're in that reality. You're in this community, whatever, boom, boom, boom. But it's affected, right? So when you ignore the fact that you're affected by others' realities, right? That's the problem. You're inherently going to be affected by others' realities, right? So when you start making your own reality, but you don't realize that you're being affected, right, by others, right? If you don't realize that, not even if you're going to make your own reality, but if you're going to talk about it, if you're going to think about it, and you're going to do all this, right, you got to understand that in reality, can you ever step out of your perspective? Maybe not. I'm not to answer that, because I assume that I step out of my perspective, but maybe I was just taught that. Maybe I seen a lot of things when I was younger, and a lot of different things, so then I was able to actually be able to step into other people's shoes. But also, that's not 100% true, because there's just going to be a chance where you're not going to be able to step into this person's shoes and be able to understand this person. You're not always going to understand people. Most of the time, you're actually not going to understand people. You have to not act as if you understand, but you have to stop at a certain point to be like, okay, I understand at this point, because no matter what, but being understood is an unfair task. As you're asking the thing, it's not unfair, but you're asking for somebody to understand something that you don't understand, right? Unless you thought about how your parents affected your raising, how the food you eat affects you, how the things you say affect you, how the things you think affect you. If you're not thinking about all that and then talking about, not even and then talking about it, because you can talk about it all you want, but if you don't realize that the certainty and what's the name is really the inherent problem, because that's what we constantly search for. We constantly search for the certainty. We constantly search for that, and we will never find it. It's not really necessarily a problem. It's just something we could never really understand it. That's why I use the aspect of, like, if there was a stronger mind, a stronger species that had a better mind than us, which not AI, because they learned from us. And as one of my people in the comments said, they're psychopathic. They have no emotions. There's nothing. It's just pure calculated logic based on other humans. That's all it is. Based on most humans, I guess it would be now, right? But pure calculated logic without a proper input. So if I say the cat's black, right? The cat's orange, right? But I say the cat's black. Now that's the logic of everybody in my house. Oh, the cat's black. The cat's black. When somebody comes into my house and sees the orange cat, they're gonna be like, oh, that's the orange cat. But everybody else is gonna be like, oh, that's the black cat. That's the black cat. That's the black cat. Logic is not really, like, even by definition, I'm pretty sure it's based on facts. But in reality, logic is just not based on facts. Because what are facts? Just your shared reality. That's all a fact is. A higher level shared reality, meaning that everybody believes this, such as money is valuable. Money is only valuable because everybody believes it. Or that it tracks onto anything, cats, dogs, human life, all of that. It's only valuable because we think so. And a lot of us think so. You feel me? So if you don't understand that, if you can't step outside of that, if you genuinely can't step outside of that and then step back in because that's what you're supposed to do, all you're doing is stepping outside of the experience, but you're always doing that. Say you close your eyes, you're stepping outside of this experience now. Now it's just darkness for me. I'm not in the experience of my room anymore, which I still am. But once I close my eyes, I'm not experiencing my room all the way, because I'm experiencing the cold. I'm experiencing the the ground, you feel me? But now what I'm seeing is blackness, but it's really just the back of my eyelids. That's all it is. It's the back of my eyelids. That's why the blackness is there. So when you get to the facts, not even facts, but when you get to the things, right? And you understand that this shit is a shared reality. It is just based on most perspective, right? But that doesn't make it true. That doesn't make it correct. But the point is that it does make it true and correct, because true and correct and good and evil and all these things are just concepts made by us, right? Now, the fact that we see these things, that wasn't made by us. The negativity maybe wasn't made by us, right? The positivity and negativity, yes, it was not made by us, because if humans weren't here, how would we know? But if humans weren't here, then the world would just be still spinning, right? The world would still be spinning, because we've actively destroyed the world a little bit worse, and it's still spinning now. So think about it, right? So if the world would still be spinning if humans weren't here, what makes all this positivity and stuff? Positivity, negativity, all this. Awareness. You being able to see it. Not even you being able to see it, but that's essentially what we deem awareness as. But you being able to sense it, right? Because blind people can't see, yet they're still in the same reality as you. But also, you can ask this question: they're not really in the same reality as you, as they've never seen before. They're in a whole different plane than you. In reality, like, some blind people genuinely gain the ability to bounce, the sound bounces off and they can echolocation type of stuff. You feel me? So when you think about that reality versus your reality, it's just not the same thing. It's just not the same thing, right? But if you don't accept that, then you'll never be able to ask a blind person, hey, what do you feel? What do you see? Because asking that question would seem mean or something, but you're just asking, hey, what do you see? Right? Because when you say, what do you see? It could just say blackness. I see black. But is black to them the same thing as it is to you? What is the value of darkness if they've always been in the dark? Right? When you think of the darkness as just black and gone, that's when it becomes a bad thing. But that's just simply not what it is. It just simply is. We made these concepts of bad, you feel me? But as I said, if humans were gone, none of the shit would really be bad. It would just be life. When a lion kills a gazelle, it's just life. That's just what it is. Nobody says that's bad. The lion had to eat. The lion had to eat, man. He could have ate berries, whatever. But the lion is not built for that. The lion is built to hunt. The lion is built to kill things, and it's built to eat those things for its body. That's what its body is meant for. To do that, right? Because that's what evolution did for it. I only think about evolution for humans most of the time, but I'm starting to think about it for animals and shit too. It's like, but humans are animals, but that's the whole point, evolution. But it's confusing because it's supposed to be confusing. It was always meant to be confusing, and humans, but think about it, right? Humans made the word confusing. Humans made the concept of confusing. It's really not that it's confusing. It's just that it is. That's all we can ever explain it as. Because we take these words, and these words can't fully explain what we're talking about, but we still use them. right? We still use them. We still expect people to understand them and feel them. But people aren't going to feel the words if they don't even understand what you're saying. If people don't understand the darkness or the other stuff or the light, whatever, if they don't understand it, if they're just living in it, they won't be able to push past it, you feel me? Because in reality, that's what makes, like, thinking about the darkness and all that stuff is what makes, not think about the darkness, but thinking about things in general is just what makes the things. Like, how do you think everything that was made that wasn't already on Earth, which that was also made too in some way, but the things that were made, like in the human aspect at least, when you think about it, the things that were made, right, were just like, oh, this guy, he literally thought about it, did it. And even if he didn't think about it, it went through his brain first before it went to his body. It is just that simple. It's simple and confusing, but that's the point of it. It's supposed to be. We have to accept that it's supposed to be this way. So when we're in this reality and certain things happen, we have to accept that it's supposed to be this way. That's just what it's supposed to be. Like, I don't know. You can't change the past unless we get time travelers. But if we had time travelers, the niggas would already be coming back. You feel me? It just... Or, in reality, if we had time travelers, they would probably only start coming back once we actually gain the ability to time travel. So, I don't know. I don't know. But that's beside the point. We're going to talk about time travel in some other stuff because I just want to talk. I just like talking about the stuff that doesn't really make sense. You feel me? But I don't know, man. If you can't understand the shared reality of everybody else, you won't be able to truly live, because it's not that you won't be able to truly live, but you won't be able to truly experience, because you will assume that your experience is limited and that it's supposed to be limited, right? But no, the whole point is it's limited because you have to experience. You're experiencing until you go back. And guess what? You just might not ever go back. Because that's what happened. The Big Bang, whatever you want to call it, God, all that. Before all this shit existed, right? Which is confusing, as I said, as the cycle continues. It just keeps going over and over and over, right? So as I said, there's no end to that. So then what? Then what? What do you do? Right? Once you realize that there's no end to it, and essentially it's not even that what you do is not valuable. It's just that it's based on your reality. It's based on your reality. If it's valuable to you, it is. If it's just because everybody else values it doesn't mean that you shouldn't value your stuff. But that also doesn't mean that just because everybody else values something else doesn't mean you shouldn't value what you value. But that's the thing. That's, as I said, the problem now, the certainty. Everybody thinks what they're valuing is the correct thing. But in reality, the correct thing doesn't exist. Because it is created by the human mind, right? And now, in turn, yes, it does exist. But the different perspectives on this shit makes the existence of these things and these it makes them kind of useless, right? So think about it. This world is curated to win on shared perspectives. most of the time when you're alone, you're not going to win. Most of the time when you never taken other people's advice, you're not going to win, because inherently you have already taken in other people's advice. You didn't have control when you were 1 to 5 or 1 to 13. You didn't have control then. You're not going to lie to me and tell me that you did. So you feel me? You didn't have control then. So who was taking care of you? Those people affected you. If you're living believing that you weren't affected by that, then it's not like you're not going to be affected by it. Like, you are. Like, you can say will is the way, whatever, but your will doesn't exist if you don't believe that you don't have that will, right? Not that you don't have that will, but if you don't believe there's something to be willful for, then you won't go for it, or you won't understand it. So if you don't understand that you were raveled up as a child, you were raveled up, you came in pure, as think of it as a string of yarn, you feel me? You came in pure, but in reality, did you come in pure? What did your mother eat when she was pregnant? All that other stuff does affect you. It just does. What were your mother's parents? Who were your mother's parents? What are her genetics? Not just your mother, your father too. And then your grandmother, and then all the way back to the start of the universe, essentially. But that doesn't really matter. You feel me? Because all of that led to this situation right now, or that situation over there in the house across from me, or any situation. All of that led to this second, that whatever somebody else is doing right now, everything that happened in the world led to our seconds right now, right? Led to me making a video, led to all this stuff, right? And that's the point. Infinity keeps on going. It just keeps going. It keeps going, right? But people think of it as a line, right? A line. But that's not what it is. The symbol of infinity is the symbol of infinity. I don't know why, for some reason, we think of it as numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But the whole point is that infinity isn't even a number. It's a concept that these things just don't, it just tells you these things don't stop. You don't understand that it's enclosed. Even infinity has limits, bro. Even infinity has limits. Like, that's the point of it. But that's why it thins out. That's why the universe thins out instead of like actually blowing up and expanding like how a balloon does. But actually it is exactly like a balloon, as all you're doing is filling it with air. You're not actually, I mean, you're making the balloon bigger, but you're just stretching its already made capacity for as long as you possibly can, or as long as you want to, until you got the right balloon, right? But the thing about the balloon is the balloon pops if you blow into it too much. That's the difference. The balloon doesn't pop. If the balloon popped, then the same thing is everything always is happening. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Watch the movie. But everything is everywhere all at once. You feel me? If like, even the future is here too. The past is here. The present is here. It's all here. It's all already happened. No matter what you try to do, it's all already happened. So when you try to take control of that is when you get confused. When you try to take control of something that doesn't make sense to your human brain, that this stuff already happened, and it's going to happen no matter what you do, but once you realize this, right? Once you're able to gain that real perspective, then, as I said, you step back into the shared reality of everybody else, right? Because in reality, when you have an experience on anything, drugs, whatever, it alters your reality, right? That's why if 3 people take the same drug, they will be on the same wavelength, but everybody else wouldn't. Even alcohol. When people when everybody drinks alcohol and everybody's on the same level and everybody's cooked. Nobody feels bad about everybody being cooked, you feel me? So not even until it gets crazy, because everybody's cooked. It's probably not going to get the type of crazy, not even the type of crazy, but the people that are actually experiencing it don't think it's crazy because they're influenced by the alcohol, which reduces your decision-making capabilities. If you act as if you didn't just drink the bottle and you don't understand that your decision-making capabilities are lower in general, like you don't have control over that. I mean, you do have control over it if you don't drink the bottle, but once you drink the bottle, you don't have control over that. Now, what does that mean? Right? It just ties back into if you act as if you were not affected as a child first, then with the things that you think, then with the things that you do, then with the way that you treat other people too, then like that essentially is what leads to the certainty when you're confused. Being certain when you're confused is just incorrect. That's exactly what dumb people do. Because my thing is, right, you instantly stop being dumb once you start asking, why am I not getting this correct? Why am I not getting this correct? And then you ask somebody and you actually value what they say as to, okay, I'm not getting this correct because what he said or what the teacher said, you feel me? I'm not getting this correct because the teacher said I got to do this, I got to do that. Okay, let me try to do this, right? But think, if you don't listen to the teacher, right, then you might as well just fail. Like, why are you even in the class, right? And then, like, it makes so much sense right there. If you're not going to listen to the teacher, why are you in the class? Or my mother forces me here, whatever. Why are you in the class? That's as sad as it gets. Genuinely. If you're not going to, like, do all this stuff, why are you in the class? If you're not going to listen to any of the teachers at all, why are you in the class? And if you're not going to understand that you have to listen to the teacher, or that you did listen to the teacher at one point and that's why you got it correct, or that maybe that's why you got it wrong. If you could, maybe the teacher is wrong and the teacher tells you to do something and you do it and now it's wrong. And now you don't understand that the teacher just told you to do something wrong. So then you go ask the teacher why it's wrong, but the teacher is wrong. And when I'm saying teacher, I'm not just talking about school. I hope that we already understood that. But if the teacher is wrong, how can you be learning correctly, right? So right now, when you bring that into raising up a child and other things like that, it's like, okay, it's not about if the teacher is wrong. It's about, well, no, it's not as simple as if the teacher is wrong, because we don't know what wrong will be when you're raising a child, right? Or we don't think that, right? But if your parent studies genes and studies the world that they're in when you're going to be born and when you're going to grow up, if they study that and then they come back, teach you all of these things that you need to do, right? It's your perspective. You can listen or not. But if they come back and tell you all these things that you need to do for this specific thing, for this specific world, right, for this specific reality. Now, that's the problem with most parents and stuff. They tell you how to live in their reality, but that's just not what it is anymore. But they think that's what it is because they haven't realized that they are now confused. But in reality, they've probably been confused the whole time, right? So now that they're confused, they get upset when they're confused. People get upset when they're confused, yes. Do you not get upset when you're confused? But That's when you start to see, that's why everybody just be so negative and so wrong for, not even wrong, but they don't care if they're wrong. They don't care. It doesn't matter. Because what matters to them is their perspective. If their perspective is not broken, then it doesn't matter. Why would it matter? And even if their perspective is broken, right? Why would they look on your perspective when their perspective is broken? They got to fix their perspective now. That's how people think. I mean, that's not that's essentially how people think. Yes. They protect yourself, protect, be independent, do this, do that. But in reality, humans weren't meant for that. And now it makes us confused. So, but it's not that humans weren't meant for certain things. It's just that to be able to choose to do these certain things, you have to be aware. You're not choosing if you're not aware that you're actually doing it. And also, even once you're aware, there's a point to where you're really, like, there's at least a point between you becoming aware and you fixing all of your, not all of your mistakes, but all of your internal trauma and your internal problems and your eating habits and all of this to make you as pure as possible. Then, damn, yeah, I fucking forgot. I think that's about the time we end this. But yeah, if you change, you got to change your eating habits. You got to change all this other stuff. If you can't unravel the yarn and make a line, I mean, not make a line, but make a string again, so you can then knit your own clothing and make your own perspective, not your mother's perspective, not nobody else's perspective, not your father's perspective, not your brother's perspective, your own perspective, and then you choose to live in the shared reality. That's when you actually gain the control, right? But in reality, you have to also understand that even this, even all of the good stuff, all they mean, you're still controlled by your genetics. That's something that you can't get rid of. Well, that's not true. I'm going to talk about that later. The genetics. Lock in.